Allen here, founder of the Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. So, good morning, this amazing Wednesday morning. Thank you, all of you, for those that are joining me live or whether you're watching me on the replay. Today's topic is all going to be about your needs. Okay, I've been hearing this topic come up quite a lot over the last couple of weeks, and so I thought, you know what, I need to do a live on this. I need to do a live on this because there are so many people that are in pain, that are upset, that kind of feel a bit lost around understanding what their needs are, how to identify them, how to get them met. And I ask this question quite a lot with clients. What do you need? And the answer that comes back quite often is, I don't know. I don't know. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you for joining me. Yeah, a lot of people don't know. They don't know what their needs are. So I wanted to share some tools and stuff that I use with clients, and some tools as well for you that you can use by yourself, to help you understand what your needs are and actually what to do, how to go about it. All right, but before I do that, I just want to introduce myself to those of you that are not familiar with me or my work. So my name is June Allen, and I am the founder of the Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. So I run a Black Women's Mastermind. I run a book club, and I absolutely love what I do. I began doing this work on my own. I started my own personal journey back in 2009 off the back of a really painful relationship, dysfunctional relationship. And I went into 12-step recovery, had an amazing time, learned a lot about myself. But what I also understood was that there was no cultural context. Okay, I didn't understand what it meant to be a black woman also doing this work. I didn't understand how racism played a role in my wellness journey. I didn't understand it, and at the time, there wasn't really anybody that I looked up to that was able to help give me any insight into what was going on and what to do about it. So I just then became obsessed with reading, and just trying to figure out, like, joining what it meant, what happened to my enslaved ancestors, on the plantations back in Jamaica. My parents are from Jamaica. I wanted to find out, what was the intergenerational consequences of that. What happened to those people? What happened internally? What went on? How is that experience back on the plantation? How does that impact me today? How does it impact how I love? How does it impact how I feel about myself? And so it was very, very difficult for me to be able to understand all of that. But I took my time, and it paid off. It paid off. And so, as a result of my own journey and all of the insights and stuff that I'd learned, I decided that, I wanted to train to become a therapist. I'm also a student psychotherapist. I've got one more year left to go. So, oh, excuse me, just 1 minute. Oh, hang on. Hello? I can't do that right now. I'm right in the middle of something, so you have to come back another time. Sorry about that, people. I knew if I didn't tell him to go away, he was going to keep bugging me. But anyway, so apologies for that. So yes, so what was I saying? Yes, I went into doing, became obsessed with doing this work, and it was just amazing. It was just amazing to train as a therapist and to start to empower people. I started sharing my own journey and what I've learned on the path and stuff like that, and it was really, really great, and I absolutely loved it. It was painful and it was difficult, but I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about what it means to include all of the cultural context, and I just felt so empowered. So I've always shared my journey. For those of you that know my work already, I've always shared my journey. Um, Training as a therapist and all of the stuff that's going on for me. So yeah, so it's been really good. So that's kind of little bit about me, if you don't know any of my work. And yeah, so I'm feeling really grateful. I'm feeling really grateful today. And this year I celebrated, what am I feeling? I'm in July now. Last month I celebrated like 11 years, 11 years Sober, not from alcohol or substances, but from dysfunctional relationships. So yeah, it just feels really good to be in a position now where I can kind of give back to the community, particularly Black women. So that feels really, really good. So in continuing that conversation, part of the mastermind, I've just launched a book club, and we're now studying what Mama couldn't tell us about love, and we started it last week. We did the introduction last week, and it was really powerful. It was really beautiful just to be able to start the journey. So if you're interested in joining me for the book club, it's happening tomorrow. What day is it today? Wednesday. No, it's Wednesday today. So it's tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. London time. Okay, click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. This book is written by, I think one of the women is definitely a therapist, and she basically talks about, it's about relationships really, and about how racism, slavery, all of that kind of, just all the stuff that I said about not understanding the cultural context, and um, how to include that in understanding how you behave in relationships, how you show up in relationships, how you look after yourself, all of that kind of stuff. So this book's been really great so far in understanding that, the different layers that come to us as Black women, and how there are so many different things for us to be able to look at. So in addition to actually doing the study in the book club, you do also get access to a huge library of stuff that's going to help you to not just understand the text, because this is not just about us understanding the text, it's about us unpacking it, and also giving us permission to be able to explore the impact that it has on our own lives. And so, in addition to this, you'll get access to a huge library that's got master classes and journal prompts and all of that good stuff. So another reason why, so that's the housekeeping bit, okay, and what's happening this week. So today's topic is all about the idea that I'm hearing a lot of people that I'm working with, or generally saying they don't really understand what their needs are. They don't really understand what they need, or how to identify them, or anything like that. So what I wanted to share with you today is a tool that I use. Okay, and you'll get this is in the library. It's a feelings and needs chart. Okay, one of the things that happens to us if you've been raised in a home where there was abuse, where there was neglect, where there was violence, even living under the system of racism, and actually not feeling connected to your Black body, not feeling connected to yourself. Okay, that is going to have an impact on your ability to have a healthy relationship with yourself. Okay, it's going to impact your ability to have a healthy relationship with yourself. So then what happens is you don't really know what you're feeling. You don't understand what you're feeling, or because you've not been at, because especially if you're in a home where you were neglected, and you didn't have the opportunity to be able to express your needs fully. It's going to be very difficult for you as an adult to be able to understand what your needs are and to be able to express them. So one of the things that I encourage the ladies in the group to do, or in the mastermind, is to use this feelings and needs chart. If you're already in the mastermind, this will be in the library. Okay, under I think it's in the daily there's a category in the library about daily rituals and stuff like that you can use, and it's in there. There's a PDF that you can download in there. So across the top of the feelings list, okay, it's got the main feelings. So it's got fear, anger, sadness, powerful, joyful, peaceful. Okay, and then underneath, if you can see that, I'll show you that on Instagram. All right, that's it. That's where it is on Facebook. And then underneath all of that, there's loads of words that are associated with those core feelings at the top. So, as an example, if you're feeling shut down, okay, then the core feeling at the top is fear. So then you can start to ask yourself, okay, well, why am I feeling fear? What's that about? So first of all, you need to identify your feelings. Okay, so that's that side of it. And then on the other side is the needs list. Okay, and I'm going to go through the core needs, because until you really understand how you feel, you're not going to be able to understand what your needs are. Okay, you have to do it in that order. You have to understand what how you feel before you can understand what your needs are. And actually, a lot of us find it difficult to identify our needs because we don't have a safe space to be able to unpack them, to be able to understand what our feelings are. Now, one of the things that I hear a lot of Black people talking about or saying is, stop getting in your feelings. We've been taught that. Stop getting in your feelings. Why are you in your feelings? And it's like a negative thing. If you feel something, it's somehow negative. As children, I know a lot of us have heard that phrase. If you don't stop crying, I'm going to give you something to cry about. So we've been taught very, very early that we're not allowed to have feelings, and our feelings are not the your feelings are not the enemy. Your feelings are there to teach you about yourself. Your feelings are there to teach you what you need. And if you're disconnected from your feelings, it's going to be difficult for you to be able to understand what your needs are. So a lot of us just shut down. We just close down how we feel. So therefore, it makes sense now as an adult when you get to a point where you just can't feel anything. When you're trying to connect to that part of yourself, you can't feel anything because you're so disconnected from how you feel. So I'm going to go through the needs list. Once you've identified what your feelings are, okay, you can use this chart, and it's a really powerful way for you to really understand. Okay, well, now what do I need? Now I understand what I feel. Now what do I need? Okay, so the first one is play. Okay, these are all basic human needs as well. So this is not a luxury. Okay, having your needs met is not a luxury. This is something else that as black women that we always tell ourselves, to have needs is selfish. To have needs is somehow, unworthy, it's ungodly or whatever for you to want something. But as human beings, we have needs. As black women, we have needs, and it's okay for us to be honest with ourselves about what we need. Okay, so what I'm going to be sharing are needs that are your basic human birthright. Okay, so the idea of play, being able to have fun, being able to experience joy, being able to be spontaneous. Okay, that's really, really important. How many of you are intentional about play? Okay, play can come onto things like being creative as well, going out with your friends and enjoying your relationships with them, whether it's love relationship or friendship. That's really important. Okay, so think about that. That's a really important need to play, especially with a lot of the stuff that a lot of us are going through. Um, yeah, so play is important. The next one is peace. Okay, the next one is peace. And peace, what's underneath the word peace is things like beauty, inspiration, harmony, equality, ease. These are some of the words that come under peace. Do you feel peaceful? How often do you feel peaceful? And if you don't feel peaceful very often, why? What is blocking you from feeling that sense of peace? Who is blocking you from feeling that sense of peace? All right? It's okay for you to want that for yourself. It's not always about other people. So many times we're so used to giving to other people that we don't know how to give ourselves the what we need. And we our sense of worthiness is kind of wrapped up in what we give to other people. Your sense of worthiness does not have to be wrapped up in what you give to other people. Okay? So the next one is honesty. Okay, and underneath that we've got presence, integrity, authenticity. Okay, so being honest is not just about what other people say to you or commit to you about. It's about you ultimately being honest with yourself. A lot of us want honesty from other people, but we can't be honest with ourselves about how we feel. If you can't be honest about how you feel and how you need, how do you expect other people to be honest with you? And also, if you're not honest with yourself, you're not going to be able to, number one, understand what your needs are, and you can't communicate that to anybody else if you don't understand, if you're not honest with yourself. So honesty has to first come with yourself. And quite often, the first place that we become honest with ourselves is in our writing. So if you don't journal at the moment, okay, begin to start journaling, because that's often the first place where you can begin to be honest with yourself. And you've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to get clarity around what you need and stuff like that. And the only way you're going to do that is to start to be curious and start to explore. That's how you start to understand what your needs are. You've got to be first willing to have the conversation, but you've also got to be willing to tell the truth. If you can't tell the truth, and a lot of us are scared to tell the truth because we're scared, because if you tell the truth, then you have to do something about what comes up in that truth. And for a lot of us, we don't want to take responsibility for what happens when we tell the truth. So we don't want we stay in denial. We stay in denial because it feels safer for us to stay in denial. If you really want to do this healing work, that is the most fundamental thing that you've got to do. You've got to learn to tell the truth first. You've got to learn to be honest first. Okay? And it's from being honest that you begin to do the next thing on the needs list, which is life begins to have a sense of meaning. Honesty is going to give you the opportunity to really think about, well, actually, why am I here? What's the purpose of my life? How aware can I be? How can I celebrate my life? What's the what do I consciously want? Who do I want to be? How do I want to grow? What's my vision? What's my hope? The only way your life is going to have any sort of meaning is by being honest. You know, so you know, meaning is a need that we don't just want to be grafting all the time, hustling all the time, doing things for other people all the time. Having a sense of meaning is about including yourself in the conversation. What do you need? What are the things that give you a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose? I know for me, it's about the work that I do as a therapist, and also being a parent. But also for me, it's about taking care of my inner child as well, that neglected inner girl that didn't feel wanted, that didn't feel loved, that didn't feel safe a lot of the time. And so, what gives me a sense of meaning, what gives me a sense of peace is doing things that are going to help that my inner black girl feel safe, that are going to help my inner girl feel peaceful. And that means doing little things like making sure that I'm going to bed on time, making sure that I'm going to bed on time, and giving myself permission to rest. For me, my peace and my sense of meaning comes in rest. That's how I really love on myself. I know that's probably one of my biggest needs, and the need that I have to really that really fills my love bank, my self love bank, is by resting. But it's because I have a better relationship with myself now, and I understand what my needs are. And in resting, I'm able to really tap into what gives me my life meaning. And again, it's that honesty. They all kind of interplay with each other. Okay, so meaning, what's your sense of meaning? Okay, so the next one is just basic physical well-being. Okay, so that means movement, it means rest, it means safety, shelter, all of the basic stuff that we need. And sometimes we can get so trapped up in these basic physical things that we don't actually bother about all the other stuff. We don't bother about our emotional needs. We think that physical needs are enough, and that my parents' generation, I know that is kind of where they're at. Well, if you got food in your belly, if you got shoes on your foot, if you got shelter, then that should be enough. That should be enough, according to my parents' generation. And I've heard a lot of my clients and stuff say that as well, that they get trapped in that, and then they're made to feel guilty if they have a need for more emotional connection, more emotional nourishment. And you're allowed to ask for those things. That's part of being human. Okay, your physical well-being, yes, you need those things, but it's okay to want more emotional connection, to want more emotional nurturance. And this is something, as black women, that we need to give ourselves permission to receive, because we're not very good at doing that, because that's how we've been taught, that's how we've been raised, that we're not, that we're not worthy of it, and that we're somehow supposed to, we feel guilty if we want more than the physical well-being. Okay, but it's okay to want more. It's okay to want more. That's your basic human right as a human being, to feel connected, to want to feel emotionally connected, to want connection. That's another need. Okay, connection, to want to feel connected to somebody else. So what comes underneath connection is our sexuality, our support, trust, warmth, closeness, communication, appreciation, affection. to know and be known, to see and be seen, to understand and be understood. That's a huge one. To understand and be understood. That is the, oh, for me, that's the ultimate connection. To have somebody to understand, or to understand somebody else, and for them to understand you. And this is something that I think a lot of us are lacking, because we're so used to just doing, always kind of trapped in that masculine energy, and we deny ourselves the right to allow people to understand us. And because we don't understand ourselves, because we're trapped in that doing energy, we don't know what our needs are. We don't know what our needs are, and so we can't allow other people to understand us, because we don't understand ourselves. And it almost becomes like a sense of shame. There's a sense of shame about other people being able to understand us, letting people in. So we almost feel like we have to present a certain way, or we struggle to allow people to really get inside our space, and to really care and nurture us, because we don't understand ourselves, or we feel ashamed about who we are, because we're so used to not being seen. We're so used to not being visible, that it then becomes shameful for us to allow ourselves to be understood and held by somebody else, whether it's emotionally, physically, or whatever. But connection, again, is a natural human need. It's your birthright, and it's okay to want that. Okay, it's okay to want that. So connection is really, really important. So the next one is autonomy. Okay, autonomy. So autonomy is about choice, freedom, independence, space, justice. Okay, so when we're hustling, when we're busy, when we're stuck in that masculine energy of doing, sometimes it can feel like we don't have any sense of autonomy. That we're just on the grind all the time. We're constantly doing. But in order to have a sense of autonomy, you've got to pause. You've got to pause, and again, honesty's got to come into this. You've got to have clarity around, okay, well, what is working for me? Am I doing this because somebody else wants me to do it, or am I doing it because I want to do it? Your need for autonomy matters. Your need to have your own personal space is okay. You're allowed, but you have to create it. Sometimes we get so caught up and trapped in other people's expectations of us, whether it's socially as black women, or whether it's within our family of origin, or whether it's in relationships, or whatever it is. We get so trapped in the external part of it, and that's often about fear of abandonment, fear that I'm going to be rejected, fear that we're going to be judged. So we stay in that place of, oh, I have to do this for the other person. I have to do this because this is what's expected of me. So then you give away your power. You give away your autonomy. You throw it away. You throw it away because you don't feel worthy. So an important part of doing this work, an important part of reclaiming yourself, is giving yourself permission to really make the choices for yourself. And this is why, doing this book, as well as kind of exploring all the mother wound stuff, is really, really important, because we have to really understand what we learn, because a lot of that stuff is learned behavior. We learned that, well, black women are just here to be mammies for everybody else. We're here to be mules and mammies for everybody else. And it's selfish for us to want something different. It's selfish to us to want some sort of autonomy over our own lives. It's selfish to us to want autonomy over our own bodies. Everybody else can have access to our bodies, but we're not allowed to say what happens to our bodies. And it's time for us to take it back. You're allowed to take it back. Okay? So your autonomy is really about you making the decisions that you need to make about how you operate, about what feels good for you. Okay? And I'm not talking about doing it in a selfish way where you're doing stuff for yourself, and in that sense it kind of tramples over other people. It's about detaching from the expectations of others and putting your healing first, putting your needs first. Because in order for us to have any sort of sense of meaning, or to have any sort of sense of purpose and to be able to really live in that, you've got to have you've got to give yourself permission to stand in the power of your own autonomy, to stand in the power of being able to make your own choices. And that is hard initially because you're so used to doing what other people want you to do, and other people are used to you doing what they want you to do, that you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that because this, there's the fear of how it's going to change the relationship. There's the fear of how you're going to be received. There's the fear of if that person going to think that I'm a bad person if I now claim, my right to choose, if I now claim back my own power, if I make myself now part of the conversation in this relationship, whether it's a love relationship or friendship or family relationship or whatever it is, it's all the same thing. But it's so important for you to give yourself permission to explore what that freedom looks like for you. If your life is feeling really chaotic, if you're feeling really stressed, and this is something that I have to keep, asking myself all the time. I have to ask myself this question all the time. When I get stressed or overwhelmed or whatever, I'm like, okay, am I kind of in somebody else's expectations? Am I putting too much on myself? Am I trying to do too much? Am I trying to be Wonder Woman? There's that black woman, Wonder Woman syndrome, isn't it? Black women feeling that they're spinning so many plates that somehow we're supposed to be, we're human beings. Black women are human beings. We're not mules. So it's okay to put some of that shit down. Under schedule. Take stuff off your calendar. I do that all the time as well. I go into my calendar and I think, do you know what? Do I really have to do that? Can I delegate it? Can I just not do it at all? Is it really about, am I worrying about upsetting somebody else? So I'm feeling like I have to do it. No, take it off your calendar. Take it off your calendar. An important part of understanding your needs is giving yourself that space to rest, space to daydream, space to think, space to reflect, so that you can really think about actually what do I need. Some of us are so busy on the grind all the time that we just don't have, there's no bandwidth to think about what we need. We're just cracking on with it, getting on with being a parent, getting on with this and that, and you're never going to be happy when you're on that hamster wheel. It's just not going to happen. So it's about you giving yourself permission to have a space to be able to look at what's going on for you and getting that honesty, getting that sense of meaning. It's important. So the last one on this needs list is culture. Okay, couldn't do a needs list without culture. So so culture is about um, needing to understand your history. Okay, what are the customs? What are your specific customs? Are there dates and stuff in the calendar that you want to celebrate as part of culture? Black History Month, or maybe not Black History Month. You celebrate it all year round. Your identity, spirituality, ritual, things like libation. I do libation as part of my morning rituals and stuff like that. I'll sometimes do libation before I do a class, with my group, because I think that bringing that sense of culture into it is a celebration of blackness. Living in this under a system that is anti-black and racist, is demonizing our culture. So an important human need for me as a black woman, for you as part of the black community, is to understand and incorporate and be intentional about your cultural needs. What are your cultural needs? Okay, what are your cultural needs? What are the rituals and celebrations and dates and things like that that are important for you to celebrate, and not just the ones that feel painful, that are traumatic. A lot of times it's a lot of the stuff that sometimes that we see that I see on my social media timeline and stuff are quite often dates that are triggering people being murdered, people dying, and it doesn't mean to say that we don't want to honor our ancestors for whatever reason. But an important need as well is to use our culture as a form of celebration. How do you celebrate your culture? What does that look like? Okay, how can you be intentional about your culture? How can you be intentional about celebrating who you are as a black woman? One of the ways that I do it is through adornment. Okay, that's an important part of culture, adornment, and I do it through wearing jewelry that feels cultural, jewelry that statement pieces that make me feel really proud of being a black woman. That's one of the reasons why I wear so many, big jewelry pieces. I'm always buying big jewelry pieces, especially necklaces, because it helps me to feel connected to my culture. It helps to remind me of how beautiful we are as black women. And it's just small. It might seem like a small thing, but for me, it's like it's a full stop in the day. Like, I am a black woman, and I can have the simplest of garments, but as soon as I put on a statement piece of jewelry, it's a full stop in my identity for the day. You know, it's a full stop in the day, in the morning. Like, now I feel like I'm dressed for the day because I've got my identity. I've got my identity in the form which is in the form of a jewelry piece. Think about that. Think about your needs as a black woman. How does that get expressed? How does your culture get expressed? Okay, how do you feel? How do you get your need for a sense of community as a black woman? How is that need met? How is that need met? This is one of the reasons why I wanted to create the mastermind for black women, because it meets a need, okay, for culture. We go in there, we talk about black issues, we talk about issues that are specific to black women. That is meeting a need. It meets a need for belonging. It meets a need for safety. It meets a need for security. It meets a need for meaning. It meets a need for autonomy, because it's a safe space for women to come together and have the choice to talk about things without white people being in the room. To have conversations about us, for us, run by somebody like myself who understands us as a therapist. Okay? So there are so many different needs in the mastermind that are met. And that's the reason why I wanted to set it up. It also meets the need for play, because once a month, the ladies will get together and have like a sister salon night. The women in my mastermind will get together and do that, and they'll sometimes they'll chat about whatever. You know, so think about when you next time you have that conversation with yourself about, I don't know what my needs are. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 things that I talked about today on this list. Okay, 8 different needs that I talked about. So think about those things. Next time you think about, I don't know what my needs are, think about those things. If you're interested in joining the mastermind or joining us for the book club that is going to be happening on Thursday, you can click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. And again, obviously with the book club, you can get access to all of these materials that I've shared about today with the feelings and needs. That's all in the Sanctuary Library. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today. If you've got any questions at all about anything that I've shared, please, you can either drop them in the comments below, or you can send me an email, info@guideofgreatness.com. You can just send me a direct message, and I will answer it there. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you found today useful. If you know somebody that is struggling with, who they are, their identity, not understanding their needs or whatever, tag them, share this live stream with them. Okay, thank you so much for joining me this week, and I will see you next time. All right, take care, have an amazing day. Bye.